initiation ritual. She bit his icy neck, is draining the life out of him, replenishing her own cherished youth. Subdivided her cells, commingling with those of the leopard with the reptile head. The Redeemer. She tested his wrath, teased and offended. How the Nile flows, how the Nile flows, how the Nile flows, flows. Shining ships, flying information over the canyon, piercing the atmosphere, secret cargo at the destination unknown. Last hope for a desperate world. The little girl in the canyon pointed upward shouting, "The sky is pregnant! The 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 sky is pregnant!
Get out of the kitchen fast. Get Ajax, now in plastic, too.
In Part 1, Frank Zappa's early and late 1960s San Bernardino appearances at Tommy Sandy's Club Sahara and the Swing Auditorium were documented. On April 5th, 1980, Frank Zappa returned to play the Swing Auditorium in San Bernardino.
KLOS, in coordination with Avalon Attractions, is pleased to announce
Zappa, the best, the biggest musical show of the season. Sounds you never dreamed of hearing in a concert hall. Brought to life in a way no other group has dared to try. Zappa, the best.
Don't miss Frank Zappa tomorrow night at the Los Angeles Sports Arena.
And you can see Frank Zappa at the Swing Auditorium in San Bernardino tonight.
Zappa opened the concert with an extended guitar solo instrumental entitled Watermelon in Easter Hay. He then stepped up to the microphone and said,
"Hi. Welcome to the show. As you know, we haven't been here for about 11 or 12 years, and they still got the same ugly decorations up in the ceiling. Well, that's progress."
The ugly decorations Zappa referenced were the silver tinsel that was hanging from the ceiling of the Swing Auditorium. The tinsel can be seen in this photo, taken when the building was set up for a 1950s roller derby game. He evidently noticed the decorations 12 years earlier during his 1968 Swing Auditorium appearance with the Mothers of Invention. San Bernardino Sun staff writer Mark Lundahl wrote a review of the concert that appeared in the 4780 edition of the newspaper. After mentioning Zappa's ugly decorations remark, he wrote, "Yep, snide old Frank Zappa was back at Swing Auditorium with a new show, a new look, and his first tour in 2.5 years. The hair was no longer a tangled mop. A recent haircut took care of that, but the droopy mustache, droll humor, and instrumental finesse remained. It's wise to expect the unexpected at a Zappa concert, and Saturday night that meant no oldies, no Dynamo Hum, no Peaches and Regalia, and gasp, no San Bernardino. Instead, nearly all of Zappa's 2-hour-plus show was devoted to new, unreleased material. A few selections from Joe's Garage, the instrumental Black Napkins, disco hit Dancing Fool, as well as a cover of Tony Allen's Night Owl, were added for good measure. But for the rest of the evening, it was a medley of the unknown. Instrumentals did not play a major part at this concert. The new material was vocal intensive, with black singers Ike Willis and Ray White taking most of the parts. As always, offbeat subjects and blue humor was the order of business. Some of the topics covered Coneheads, Dumbo, suicide, and TV preachers. Actually, the reviewer misidentified one of the subjects as Dumbo instead of Jumbo. Some of the songs, Charlie's Enormous Mouth, Beauty Knows No Pain, Heavenly Bank Account, and Harder Than Your Husband. It might have helped if the security guards outside had handed out lyric sheets as they were frisking the audience. The close harmonies and fuzzy acoustics often buried the humor. Instrumentally, the band did not quite play with the precision of some of Zappa's past groups. Only keyboardist Tommy Mars was really impressive, particularly with his synthesizer colorings. And Zappa, whose guitar once seemed to be a permanent appendage to his body, only picked up his axe on occasion, the concert's finest moments, choosing to spend the rest of the time darting around the stage, mic in hand, like some demented cabaret crooner. Well, that's progress. To bring the story full circle, we revisit some of the venues mentioned earlier. Tommy Sandy's Club Sahara on E Street, where Zappa made his first San Bernardino appearance, is no more. The space it once occupied is now an empty field. The site of the original McDonald's drive-in, just up the street from Club Sahara, is now home to a museum dedicated to the restaurant's history and its San Bernardino roots. On the south wall of the museum is a mural depicting many of the music legends that appeared at the Swing Auditorium. Among those listed is Frank Zappa. It's not known if the artist of the mural was aware that the former location of the Club Sahara was situated less than a block away to the south. The Swing Auditorium, where Zappa played 2 concerts, met its fate when a 2-passenger Cessna private plane crashed into the building on 9/11/81. The building was subsequently demolished. As for Frank Zappa, he would only undertake 2 more tours in 1984 and 1988. He succumbed to prostate cancer in 1993 at the age of 52. He was posthumously inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1995.
part 2 of Riffing with Zappa, I want to share some additional albums that got me deeper into the Zappa milieu. And for a lot of folks, we're only in it for the money was and is a pinnacle for Zappa. The musicianship, the quality of the songs, the crazy inside satire of the Beatles, Sgt. Pepper. This is an album that's one of the greatest concept albums of all time, because Zappa not only upped the game musically, but from the first note to the very last, this is a very consistent take on society, and it goes after hippies, and it goes so many different targets, but they're very spot on, and it's very funny, but the music is also high gear too, and so there's so many people that this is almost like the, you know, folks who can quote lines from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. A lot of my friends know every single line, and we would sing it to each other because it's such a memorable, influential album. And probably once I had that, I was just forever set, you know, for what's this guy gonna do next. So this is not such an obvious choice, but for me, an album that I listened to, Burnt Weenie Sandwich, The Mothers of Invention, I always like that back cover too, is one of the Zappa albums that I've listened to the most. And there's just something about the ensemble playing and the cleverness of the writing and the just bizarre nature of the mothers sort of settling into who the mothers were going to be, with you know, songs like you know, Overture from a Holiday in Berlin, which my son and I, we still can hum and sing that to each other, all the way to, you know, ABC, or again, very reminiscent of Reuben and the Jets, their take from WPLJ. All Cylinders Firing. This is one of just the most complete thoughts of as an album from the Mothers. And again, on the inside, I remember just sitting for hours and just loved this inside cover because it showed them as this band and this lineup where it was reinforced over and over again that this was a group that played together, that had to have instruments out all over the stage, and then you were going to see the Mothers, you were taking on this ensemble and this wonderful, powerful, quirky, unpredictable music was something that on one hand was very improvisational and funny. It was also daring, but it also was quite studied in a way too. So he was really building on this notion of these are my compositions, again tied to his, you know, early influences in classical music. Then a quantum leap, and you heard a bit of it from, you know, Hot Rats album, these touches of jazz influence. The Grand Wazoo was really his grand foray into jazz music, and you really got to feel, and even in the liner notes, I never really paid attention to much of the crazy story, but seeing all the jazz people who were a part of this album, you see him recast as this very challenging arranger and producer of straight up jazz music. It made for a delightful journey, and you know, maybe some people didn't like this as much, but our Dangerous drummer Brad, I think he swears by the Grand Wazoo or Waka Jawaka. later, because it was not only just the quirkiness of the music, but this other field he could jump into and play, that Zappa could jump into and play flawlessly. Without Grand Wazoo, you can't get to what many, many folks' favorite Zappa concoction, one size fits all. He fully incorporates his jazz side, and with George Duke singing this almost scat-like music, things that would happen on the Vibes, but then become lyrics, and it's just a great full-service Zappa album that is a mashup of his jazz sensibility, his eclectic rock timing, and just funny songs. Plus, it talks straight up about San Bernardino and all us in the Inland Empire, even though he always has nothing but disdain and things to say about San Bernardino. There's some dark green air where you can choke all day. It was with great pride that he mentions Zulch, the auto works. That building's torn down now, or it's repainted. That's terrible. I hear the Bellrays are going out and tour for a 6-week tour. Where are you going? Where are you going?
We're going to France, Italy, Spain, Finland, and the Netherlands.
This is the first time since the pandemic? No, you got a little mini one.
We did a mini tour to dip our toe in, to make me think that, oh yeah, now I know how all this travel stuff works. And of course they changed it all again,
Right.
so it's okay. But yeah, now we're going to actually have to go back out and do the thing that we used to do all the time, that we got used to not doing. So it's something else.
Yeah.
Well, part of it you're probably really looking forward to, but you've been doing those great Thursday shows from your space. You go, hey, we don't have to travel so far.
Dude.
We can get right into that.
There's a reason that they used to keep bands on the road all the time. It's because if you don't go on the road, you realize it's crazy to just keep going on the road.
So really, if folks have not watched your Bellrays live shows or Bob and Lisa, they're live
on Instagram at the Bellrays, and you can find us. You can find out about those shows at our website, thebellrays.com. You can also find us on our Facebook, which is Facebook/Bellrays, not the.
Bellrays.
Yeah, and you'll find our rock shows. We try to do them once a month. I'm not sure how we're going to do that while we're on the road, but you can go back and look at our catalog.
It's like there's a lot of that feeling in just kind of getting in there and having this conversation, this dialogue with the audience that's built into the fabric of that. And,
that's very true.
I think it's very yields high profits.
Yeah.
Yes.
No money, but
high emotional profits. I think by us doing those shows, we talked a lot of people off the ledge. I was talking to somebody who was living in France, and they said, "Oh, we couldn't." Like they had to write a note to go to the store.
Yeah.
They had curfews. They had to get approval to do. So if you lived in a house in France, sure, you could go into your yard, but you really couldn't go anywhere else. If you lived in an apartment in Paris, they didn't want you going into your hallway.
Yeah.
You know, they wanted you in your apartment that entire time.
Yeah.
And there was nothing really going on. So us doing those shows, I feel like really was a lifeline.
It is a lifeline, and I think that music's a very healing thing. And what's nice about these conversations is I think folks get to know you for your music, but also for yourself. And both things are quite valuable. So thanks for being on Lo-Fi Lounge.
Yay! Do what we can.
Okay, Bob, Lisa, thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Nancy Naomi Carlson reading 3 untitled translated excerpts from Alain Mabanco's When the Rooster Announces the Dawn of Another Day. God turns his back on us. How to interpret the tablet of laws, translate the portent of night. For all was already transcribed. I'm not to blame, said the migratory bird. I was gone for the winter. My only crime is to sport the same plumage as those in my branch. Nonetheless, the birds of your kind have sinned in your name. One day, the moon lodged a complaint. It was heard by the darkness. But the day erased the grievance of the moon. Ever since, we have lost our memory. About this poem. Alain Mabanco's words are plain-spoken but powerful, deeply rooted in his relationship with his African homeland from which he is exiled due to the political upheavals that continue to ravage his country. Mabankou draws much of his inspiration from the flora and fauna of his childhood, which for him simultaneously symbolize birth, life, and death, and the poetry that resides in ourselves. He is steadfast in his belief that in the absence of a supreme being, it's all up to us to save our humanity as well as our planet.
The new album from The Dangers is called Heaven. Next up, we have just a preview of the Ed Palermo Big Band. He specializes in jazz, arrangements of about 1 billion Frank Zappa songs. And we have an interview with Ed coming up in a couple shows, so hope you dig it.